Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
And I am Mike Forster. Adam, congratulations. This is 5 years of Thank the Maker.
This many.
5 friggin' years. This is big time right here. But we are joined by our friend Keven Carter here, and we are going to talk about the 5-year anniversary of Thank the Maker next week because we felt like 501 was more appropriate than celebrating 500 because that number means nothing in Star Wars, but 501 does. So we're going to make it real special. Keven, what's up, dude?
Hey, how you guys doing? Congrats on 5 years.
Well, thank you.
It was kind of a big deal. There's been a couple of different faces through here. Our buddy Nick is actually on his way overseas right now with his band Bayside to go treat the European crowd to a couple tasty licks, and it should be a great time for them. Very excited for Nick. And then also as soon as he gets back, he's going on a large tour, 2 nights. Go make sure you check out Bayside to see them in your city. It's going to be awesome. And but tonight we get to talk about Star Wars.
We get to talk about a type of Star Wars experience that is just like right here, right in the heart area, you know, an immersive this concept, Keven, that you are part of is, like we mentioned before we started recording, such like has become such a central thing to us as Star Wars fans because we got Galaxy's Edge not that many years ago, really, followed by the Galactic Star Cruiser. Then we lost the Galactic Star Cruiser. But having had those experiences, I mean, we broke the seal. Like the truth has been revealed to us. Like the possibilities are now within they're right there to be had. And when one of them got taken away, we were so sad. But this great thing that you work on, Space Dive in Detroit, which is coming up on its 3rd year, right?
It's actually our 10th year, if you can
10th?
believe that.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
10 years.
10th. Wow, I didn't realize. I here I am. Terrible host.
Well, I think we're going to learn about why it's been 10 years, but you've only recently heard about it. I have a feeling.
Well, yeah, it's an immersive thing. I won't get too deep in trying to describe it myself, but I guess, Keven, take it from here and tell us what Space Dive is and why people should come and experience it this year.
Oh my God. Huge topic. So Space Dive is an immersive, costume mandatory celebration party that happens in and around May the 4th every year for the last 10 years. Now, we did take 1 year off for COVID just to be precautious, and then that wasn't going to stop the rebels from overtaking the Imperial forces. So, yeah, it's been going on. It's been 10 years. This is what we refer to as our 9th episode. So we've kind of completed all 3 trilogies at this point, so we're trying to already figure out what we'll be doing for next year because last year we said somehow Space Dive returned, like in the same capacity as the Emperor. But yeah, it's a Star Wars themed and adjacent to essentially like a pop-up takeover bar, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than just if you've ever done like a pop-up experience bar in some way. It started off very small. The 2 original members, Dan and John, first got the idea. We're all like lifetime Star Wars fans, and they were sitting around watching the original Star Wars A New Hope, and that scene kicks off where they're about to go into Mos Eisley, and they're like, you must be cautious, and it's a hive of scum and villainy. So they get inside, you start seeing the aliens, and they said to each other, they're like, how cool would it be to just be there, have a drink at that cantina, be around all these aliens, sipping blue milk, and what is that experience like? And they're like, well, why don't we do that? How hard would it be to build out this cantina experience? So they got into some planning, looked at some locations, and they found an art gallery. Now, a lot of people who are involved in Space Dive are artisans in one capacity or another, if it's theater or if it's building sets.
That's huge.
Or
That's huge.
So we're all kind of a little nerdy on the art side of the world. So they're like, this wasn't like impossible to build out flats and be able to bring this cantina experience to life. So it started off just with that core cantina and like, okay, we got a theme, a bar, the bar back, and we need a bunch of IG heads in the background, and we need a couple booth space, and we need to light it just right so it looks like you just walked right in. So it started just with that core, and then of course they're like, well, we'll invite our friends. So the first year is very small, very like by invite only, and then each year they're like, let's build it out a little bit further, a little bit bigger, more bands, more nights, more experiences that are going on. And it's grown into this multi-weekend experience where it went from just coming in costume and enjoying the costumes to people starting to like role play characters or LARP within it, and like us playing back against that. And eventually we kind of hit the limit of what we could do interior. So then we grew outside and we started building a marketplace and a sabak hut, and we took on props from fan films and such. We have an A-wing that was in a fan film.
This is the funny part. It's like you're selling it, you're letting people know, but I think for some people they're like, I mean, is this like a backyard party? No, literally, there's a whole A-wing sitting, like someone parked it right next to Space Dive, right? And I think for people who are kind of understanding the concept of what this is, like this picture that we're showing, and it stinks for our listeners, and of course we hope that they will come back and watch this, but like it is there, it is in the background. It's a full-on A-wing, and you've got people who are fully dedicated to the costume part of Star Wars, but also the lived-in experience of what it's like to be in this kind of seedy cantina. And the pictures, I remember it coming across my feed, and it makes a lot of sense for like that it was invite only, and it's growing slow because of course there's, when you're building spaces for the public, then of course the fire inspector has to get involved in all of these things. And so I know certainly that there's a lot of story in the history of Space Dive. So, but I just want to say, like, for people who are curious about what Space Dive is, there's your answer.
Yeah, it's just continued to grow on and on. Yeah, there's some shots of the marketplace here that we built out, and it's really
Eric Herspink right there. If everyone knows his amazing Star Wars inspired pottery and ceramics, I see him there, and I think from Keven, from your standpoint, because you mentioned bands, and that's like a thing where I think people are kind of like, oh, so there's more entertainment than just it being a bar. Like it's not just serves drinks, of course, but like you've expanded it to kind of like a full night experience.
Yeah, so there's on any given night there's multiple bands that play. Now I don't have a 2025 lineup at this point. That's another person's field, and I can't tread in that water, but I can say we have bands, they're theme bands. They're coming up, they're coming on costume. The music is more topical in that same capacity of it feeling like it's from Star Wars or a galaxy far, far away. We have DJs. So we have DJs that spin more like curated lists that like sound like something that you might hear like in Coruscant or something like that. So it's like themed, and there's people kind of dancing in a rave capacity. We have burlesque dancers that are again themed. So you're getting, it's a bit of a titillating show. This is definitely a 21 plus experience where there's no kids there. And wow, look at all these photos, make it look so great. Everyone's gonna have to tune in, or at least go to spacedive313.com and at least see some of these things too, because I know that's where they're coming from.
So I mean, let's get into a little bit about the experience of it, right? So Keven, we had talked a little bit. You did attend the Galactic Star Cruiser.
I did twice. Yeah.
Okay. So like for people who are kind of curious enough, we've talked about the Star Cruiser enough on our podcast, but from your experience, and what is your background, like your professional background?
It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
I love that.
Like I think we might even share something like that in common. I work in the auto industry right now, but like I had a degree in graphic design, motion graphics, and in marketing and stuff like that. So I think we might be a little bit similar.
Sure. Yeah.
And outside of that, I mean, I worked a bunch of odd jobs. I've worked as a law clerk. I've worked in a body shop. I've worked freelance for a number of years, photography, and but yeah.
Sure. Well, you've, and I think for a lot of people too, and I'm gonna put this out there because I think there's probably a lot of people in the costuming community that already follow you because you go by an alias of Polly Two Bags, which I like. I like this, but his name is Keven, but you might follow him. He goes by Blaster Master Maker, and you've got this fantastic Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Wars cosplay that I absolutely love it. And just watching you as you're actually like building stuff in the lathe, I'm just like, dude, this is so rad. You're a costumer.
Actual metal armor as well, right?
That's correct. Yeah. The shoulder armor is made of aluminum. It was one of those things that when I decided I wanted to do it, I was looking at different options that were out there, and I didn't like exactly what I was seeing. I'm also I'm a taller guy. I'm 6'2". And some of the costume pieces are more fit for people who are like 5'10".
Yeah.
Just on average. So some of those things I'm like, well, I'm going to have to change the proportions anyway.
Sure.
So I'm like, I might as well just build it to fit. And
casual. Make your shoulder patterns out of aluminum. Who doesn't do that?
Yeah. It's a little outside the box, I know, but like it's something that I'm comfortable working in. And there's something about working with metal that when you hit it and you bend it into place, it stays there.
Yeah,
it's not like foam where you heat it up and all of a sudden it changed again.
Right,
and it drives me mad. Yeah. So, like I said, I worked in a body shop for a while. I learned how to form metal. And to me, it's like it's more time consuming. There's no doubt about it, but it's a little bit more rewarding. And I feel like as long as I get to use those skills, I'll never lose them. But as soon as 100%. I stop doing it, it's gone.
Well,
dude,
go ahead, Adam.
The fact that you went as far as to make actual metal armor, which is typically plastic or foam or something, and combine that knowledge with the photos I'm looking at, it makes perfect sense that you're a part of this thing.
Yeah, what's funny is I knew about space dive for a number of years, and I somewhere along the line I ended up like having a family and a kid, and I'm like, next year, and then eventually I'm like, we're going to go down there, we're going to go on like family day, and I bring my kid down, and we're going to go look at this place. And then I went in, and I'm like, hey, you guys, I have a couple droids I could bring. And they're like, do you? Can you bring them now? We want to set them up. And I was showing them pictures of like, eventually they're like, come on in. We want your help. We want to work with you. And then that's when I came on board the following year. And started dragging my props down with me, and then also like set deck and doing all the things in advance of the show.
So going back to the experience of it all, so you had attended Star Cruiser twice.
Mm-hmm.
Your experience, Keven, is both like an appreciator of architecture, the technology, the story, all of it. Like you're kind of what I think is a perfect person to experience Star Cruiser, because like you have an appreciation for what it was that they were doing. What was in a short and sweet way, like what was your experience of the Galactic Star Cruiser from an immersion standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, an appreciation of like what they had built as frankly a technological marvel as far as I'm concerned?
Yeah, it was incredible. There's a part of me, there's like my analytical mind that was going the whole time, that my first experience, like how is this functioning? Like I don't understand exactly like how certain people are remembering me or how they're keeping me on a path. So I kept thinking like, how is this working? There's got to be a control room with somebody with a headset and saying, here comes Keven, look out. You know, don't let him through. And then I tried to like I think I went at it a little bit too hard. My initial experience was, I'm going to go on. And this was, it kind of botched my mission. But my first experience is right before we left, I bought off at Amazon this first order symbol patch. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to flash. I'm a rebel like through and through, but I'm going to flash this if I ever get in trouble. So there's a point where I was helping move luggage
Yeah,
And
yeah, right.
you know what I'm
Guy's
saying?
luggage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving guy's luggage. And then I get hit up with 2 first order troopers, and they come up to me, and I palm it in my hand, and I'm like, guys, we don't want any problem here. Let's keep this under wraps. And they're like, nice try, or I don't remember, because all their messages are like pre-recorded, like look
Yeah,
who's
it's
look
in
who
the
thinks
wrist.
he's smart or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that didn't work. And then all of a sudden, I got all the Imperial, oh, yes, you should join our side. And I'm like, nah, on the app, I'm like, I'm swiping left. And
Yeah,
we're not,
sure.
nah, we're not talking. We're not talking.
Croy's
So,
not my guy.
right. So that first experience, I, went like a smuggler's path, and I had a smuggler's experience, and it was pretty fun. So my second trip, it was right at the end. It was right when they announced that this is it. And I'm like, we're booking this one more time. There's no way. And I went out of my way to not repeat the same path.
Sure.
So hard. And I could not get escape velocity because here they come, and it's right down the same barrel. And I'm like, no, I'm ignoring you guys. Like, I don't want to talk to Guy. I don't want this experience. I'm like, where's Chewie? Can I meet that? I'll just hang out in the engineering bay, and I guarantee I'm going to see him. Please let me see him. And I could not get away from it. Yeah. So a little bit bummed my second time around, because I had a better idea of how it worked. And I wanted to try something else, and I was a little envious of people who got 2 unique experiences, because I had kind of the same one, no matter how hard I tried not to.
Sure. Yeah.
You mentioned at the top, I think before we started recording, a big difference between something like Space Dive and something like a Disney experience at Galaxy's Edge or Star Cruiser is those things are more on rails, fully scripted in the case of Star Cruiser, in terms of like the story that unfolds, and the space that you have to play within it is within those guardrails. But this is wide open, and if someone wants to go full LARP style or just sit back and absorb it, they can do that. And if they are fully all in, they can kind of go. They make it whatever they want, fully open-ended. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that, because that's sort of the thing. Like we unlike the Galaxy Star Cruiser, where everybody's going to be immediately like divided into paths, we don't divide anybody up. We don't have a particular path for you. You set your own course. We got people there who are just there to see bands. We got people there who just want to hang out and be part of it. They don't want to lean in. And then we get people who fully lean in. And then when we identify that people want to lean in, we try and push them into meeting people or scenarios, or hang out here, just wait here.
Okay.
But on that note, we can't guarantee that everybody's going to have the same experience or anything. Like, we might have too many people wanting to do any one thing. So there's no guarantee. But we hope it rewards those that lean in. Maybe you were adjacent to it. Maybe you're just outside of a blaster battle, or you're tagging along on a mission where you are quested to go get something. Sure. So it's not, LARPing's not for everybody. I think that word scares a lot of adults. Like, they're like, oh my God, I'm an instant nerd if I'm LARPing. Like, and other people are like, yeah, bring it on.
As you attend a Star Wars themed cantina, you're like, I wonder if I look like a nerd.
Yeah, in full costume, and and drinking blue milk with a blue milk mustache, and like, but you wouldn't believe. Some people are like, it's like,
sure, one part is cool, but the other part is not.
Yeah, they get LARPophobic on us.
So when you have, Kevin, there is like a concept, I think, in this idea of getting people to play along. So it sounds like there is a little bit of like, do you have plants that kind of almost seem like they're patrons, and then you're kind of identifying that someone might be pretty excited to play along with it, and then there's an opportunity for them to go a little bit deeper into the story of Space Dive?
There are people that are kind of stationed. I don't want to give away too much.
Sure.
Then you're kind of like pinning people. But, we might find 2 people who are LARPing, who are playing off each other, and come up with their own side mission that we never intended, for that matter. So, I mean, anything's kind of possible. And actually, I would embrace that organic experience. One kind of, I'll say this one kind of fun side story. So we have a sabacc hut where you can play, you change your your terrestrial currency in for chips that you can gamble with, and that's part of the experience. Now, the cards that they play with are, just for ease, we're using essentially the Galaxy's Edge Sabacc decks, just so we have multiple sets on hand. Now, people figured out by the second year of what kind of cards we were using, and there were people who certainly like put cards literally up their sleeve. Yep, they put cards up their sleeve, and we get to the point where like here comes
my, what have we here?
Yeah, and it's like how many of these cards like showed up? Like it's impossible, and so you don't know who's cheating. So people are just, it's one of those things. You can cheat at Sabacc, and as long as you don't get caught, it's not cheating. And people are fully embrace that and ran the table. And it's like, it's perfectly fine to like, no one's gonna like, and I mean, you could get called out for cheating. They might ask you to leave, but like, but things happen. And then like, we embrace that, like cheating at Sabacc is part of, you would expect that.
It's an in-universe experience.
It's a scoundrel's charm, 100%, right?
Exactly. So it's that kind of level of like thinking that we like kind of embrace, like, yeah, why not? Like if we didn't catch you, it's all's fun in cards and stars.
That's all. Well, we had Matt Martin on. He was one of the crafters of the Halcyon experience. He's one of the Lucasfilm Story Group. He's a buddy of the pod, and he's always willing to come on and talk about story because that's that's his big thing. And we had asked him, we said, did you ever kind of expect, because you've been on the Star Cruiser, of course, when the news came out that, you can't wear helmets, it was like the internet was like, I'm going to pay all this money and I can't wear a helmet. And literally me and Adam and our crew were the second trip to ever go. We had full helmeted Mandalorians sitting at the bar. We had everybody in like full Jedi kits. It was unbelievable. And then we just were let out into Batuu with our kits on. We had, our buddy Hunter Smoke that like they did a whole Mandalorian photo shoot in front of the Millennium Falcon and inside of Oga's Cantina. So you have all these people that are like, whoa, how are these people wearing these costumes with the Halcyon pin on, right? Is kind of the identifier. And we asked Matt, we said, did you ever kind of think that in the concept art of Galaxy's Edge, it was more like a market. There was more hustle and bustle. You might have like seen Mandalorians walking through, or you would see a group of resistance pilots running through trying to escape the stormtroopers. Like it was supposed to kind of be more alive. And we were like, did you ever consider that like the people of the Star Cruiser kind of became the concept art? He was like, yo, like that's a great point, right? And I think what's really awesome about it is that you had this group of people, 400 people on every voyage, that were fully committed. Most of them, of course, in my opinion, the best ones, the people who did it right, were fully committed to the idea of wearing costumes and really like living this experience. And it seems like from your side of things, like Space Dive becomes a changing experience because of what people are putting into it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we like, it's a symbiotic experience. Like we need the people in costumes to feel the immersion, as well as, we're providing you the set to play on, a 360 degree set on, not unlike, like if you're thinking about like a film set, it's always like 3 walls or the volume or something like that, where there's still that fourth wall where the camera and video village is set up. Not in our case. We don't have that. It's everywhere you look is a photo op opportunity for you. So yeah, it is 100%. It's costume mandatory.
I love that.
We've had people try to slip in and like, even if they pay,
turn them away.
Rules are rules. They get turned away. Occasionally there's people who run back home. Like some people miss the mark a little bit. Like we've had people like do like joke costumes. Like they'll wear like a Mandalorian helmet and then like a shirt that says like, like the Father of the Year, with Grogu on it. And we're like, no, we're not. That's no.
Yeah.
you're supposed to look like you walked off the scene, and it doesn't matter if you're a main character or a background character, you should fit in some capacity. So
yeah. Well, and I think that was probably one of the most, I mean, Adam and I had talked about this, it was kind of one of the most jarring experiences going so early, because you had people who were just Disney fanatics that go to anything Disney does because Disney is known for their experiences. And you had, we were early enough that people weren't exactly sure what to expect. I actually just looked at one of my Reddit posts. I did this review. I was like, here's an honest review of someone who wasn't paid to go on the trip. I paid my hard-earned money. Here's my review. And it was seen like 500,000 times or something, like just a crazy amount, because people were authentically so interested in understanding what the experience was like. And we had just enough influencer people that were still coming on and with their cameras, and you had some people that would have just a gimbal and a camera and a Mickey Mouse t-shirt on, and they did the whole dang thing. And we would kind of sit there, we're in the sublight lounge, and everyone's we're playing sabacc, and we're doing all this stuff, and then you would just get someone that would just like walk in with like a pair of New Balance and a pair of Maui gyms. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, sure,
dude, you're killing my vibe,
right?
Yeah.
and I think you could kind of start to tell as it developed its own identity that people were like, okay, I don't have to worry so much about being, I don't want to say like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you go to a costume party and you're like, oh, okay. When we meant costumes, we meant some of the people are wearing a banana suit, or like a
Exactly.
Mean Girl style, like a sexy cat.
A sexy cat. Exactly. That's exactly right. Right. And I'm sitting here in my like Return of the Jedi screen accurate scout trooper, and I'm like, oh, right. Not like that.
Right.
So I think people were starting to understand that there is a joy and there is a little bit of that experience of being able to go. I mean, I'm looking at these pictures here and being like, I mean, you are going to have more fun feeling like you are in this experience that starts with how you dress and look in the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry, bringing it back to Star Cruiser, and like you mentioned, the sublight lounge and people in full kits. I was already all in. We talked about it so much before we went to Star Cruiser. We showed up in costume, we left in costume. We didn't mess around. But it really hit me. Like, I have goosebumps everywhere just thinking about this. How much different of an experience you can have if you fully embrace it and you're surrounded by other people who are fully embracing it, and the setting elevates all that. I remember sitting around towards it, not even the end of the night, like just once everyone was kind of on the ship and settled in, we were at Sublight, we were playing sabacc, we were all drinking in universe themed drinks.
Yep.
And then the actual Mos Eisley Cantina track comes on, and I looked around. I've told the story so many times, but it was like so overwhelming. We were just in it. We were in Star Wars, and there was like there was no pulling us out of that. There was no way to not be in it. And what I'm looking at here feels like we would be in good company at this kind of event.
Absolutely. And like you're showing these shots, and it is Mos Eisley's Cantina to, like all these interior shots. That's again where we started with that. And I'll say this, that like some of the bartenders that are there, like by the end of Space Diver, like if I have to hear that,
Right.
Exactly. If I have to hear that one more time. So they eventually like they start off, it starts fun, but it's kind of probably like if you drove an ice cream truck and you kept hearing that same song over and over.
Hey dude, if you need it, I have a 4-hour Cantina playlist that we've used for Mosh a few times.
Yeah.
Which includes like Benny Goodman and a whole bunch, and the thing from Team America, the Durka Durka song.
Yeah.
Sound in universe, but nothing really repeats. So let me know if you need more tracks.
Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
So Kevin, I want to talk a little bit about because our biggest thing is when we think about immersive experiences, and it's clear that you guys have expanded this thing, and it is without a doubt, this doesn't happen without being a complete labor of love and passion for the experiential side of things, but also for the franchise. Now, when we talk about Galactic Star Cruiser, it's very easy for people to look at Disney and go, say what you want about them. And this is not the podcast for us to sit here and talk about hypotheticals, but like certainly for a company like Disney, they have a price built in, they have a margin that is what they deem as successful. Like they're going to go, we're not going to do a project unless we can make X amount of money. We're not in the business of going, we're barely getting by. Disney is Disney. And we know that, right? So they have their reasons for why Star Cruiser didn't work, but then you see the success of Galaxy's Edge, and you see that, you know, we have Mandalorian and Grogu adventures coming to Smuggler's Run. So it's like the idea is there that they are interested in figuring out how they can make Galaxy's Edge expand. But from your side of things in Space Dive, what goes into truly turning the Tangent Gallery into this? Because you have, I mean, you were joking with me, you're like, man, sometimes we let people in here and we're just hoping the paint is dry. Like you guys are literally, this is a working crew of artists and dreamers and builders and all that. So like, tell me a little bit about what this process is like, because it is fast and furious. And then once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. So, you know, right now for 2025, we're in the planning stage. We have our floor plan. We've got, you know, our existing properties that we already have built out. We have to check with the gallery because they change their floor plan at times. So we have
Sure.
to actually alter our plan as well, you know, for, you know, if their walls are no longer there, then we've got nothing to connect to. So we go through, we walk the site, we make sure that everything's where it needs to be, take measurements, and then we're back plotting. We're figuring out how much lumber we need to build flats for the new areas. And then I would say about 6 weeks out, we're building offsite, like building just what we refer to as flats, you know, like if you're doing a stage play or whatever.
Right.
And then we're sort of like putting base coats on just to get things started, some stucco, some little bit of weathering. And then like when we get down there it's literally like a week and a half. Like we roll in right after Easter, and we're building every single day. It's people going around the clock until showtime. And yeah, no joke when I told you
that paint right there.
that I wouldn't touch those blue and red stripes that you see in that picture, because more than likely you're probably going to end up wearing it on a costume. And I swear to God, I saw we painted something and people came in the door that Friday that we opened, and they immediately leaned up against it to get their photo taken next to it. And I prayed that they didn't we didn't
just Mentos commercial of the guy on the bench.
Yeah. Throwback.
Yeah.
Paint is not even dry. We're right up to the wire, working on the thing. And then like once we're done at night, and like the next day we're back in there fixing things, repairing things, finishing up touches up that we couldn't do the night before because we had to get the crowds off the street that were waiting in line.
Right. And
So
so
when you,
yeah, go ahead, Adam, because you're probably going to ask the same question
this sounds like an overwhelming amount of work, but like any art installation, there's a percentage that happens off-site. You kind of make things in a modular way where you can bring them so it's more efficient to assemble instead of building from scratch on site. And then there's a handful of stuff that you just, you know, unless you're flying everything in with like a military helicopter, you just literally can't build it in full. You have to finish it on site. What is kind of the balance there? And when we see things like, you know, like these cantina walls and the arches around the booths and stuff like that, how much of that is sort of like the main structure kind of built offsite and brought in? How much of it is necessary to build there, and how much of it is movie set style where like if someone trips, like if C-3PO trips and falls, the whole shit gets knocked over?
Well, it's anchored a little bit better probably than most movie sets. I can say that in good faith because I've been on somewhere people will slam a door on a set and the whole wall wobbles. So
Yeah, sure.
Ours are generally built better than that, but I also wouldn't do like a huge challenge to like run and dive into a wall either, because you could go right through.
Right.
For the most part, everything looks bigger than it is. It is built in sections, and then a lot of time is spent like in the last couple of days plastering over seams, so you're not seeing the seams. We're going over. I don't even know how many packages of plaster that we're mixing up and then like painting over, and so it looks like it's bigger. And then of course, like, you know, like the shot up here, some of these shots where it's a little bit darker, a little bit moodier, you're not seeing the seams. We're letting the light tell the story, and like getting away with a couple of things. But there are things you can certainly get up right on top of, and like, you know, unless you touch it, it's much like any prop until you make physical contact, and then you go, oh, that's, you know,
it's 3D printed. It's lighter than I thought. This looks like metal until I'm grabbing it.
Exactly.
But with this being a Star Wars thing, you can get away with a lot more because, you know, you hide your crimes in all of the weathering. Everything's meant to be heavily lived in. It's not like, you know, you have a brand new, you know, new construction house, your kid falls through the wall and you have to patch the drywall and it has to be perfect. It's like this house has been up for a century. A sloppy spackle job isn't going to matter here. It's kind of the same vibe, I assume, with you know, hiding seams, for example. You make it as sloppy as you want, and it works.
I think we get away with a certain amount of movie magic, and like I said, when the lights get low, it's hiding some things. But these two gentlemen, like that you just had on the screen next to Chewbacca, they don't let too many things go by. This is John is on the left. He is a local artist, and he is basically our creative director, one of the two creative directors in this. So like everything has to be to John's standards, and he's got really high standards.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I say that as also someone who I consider myself having some high standards in that stuff. And sometimes I'm like, really, John? You know, really? Or,
sure.
You know, the lights are going to get low here. I mean, and then Dan is on the right there with the blaster and a drink in his hand. And, you know, that's something that we kind of celebrate, you know, in the event, like unlike a Disney experience where, you know, you might have a drink, but you got to stay inside of Olga's. You can't go walking around. Yeah. Like we fully embrace that. Like this is the rebellion that's like on the upside of things. You know, the Death Star is now gone, and like you can walk around and be your own best version of a rebel or a space pirate that you can be, and bring your Nerf blasters and battle with us, because that's something you can't do like anywhere else. Even at a con, they won't let you bring a Nerf blaster anymore. Here, go ahead, bring it. You know, if you shoot people, you're probably going to get shot back, and by a lot of people too. So be wary who you decide to pull that blaster on and fire it off, because our crew protects our crew. So
that's awesome.
You can get lit up.
Well, so and too, Kevin, I think like for people to kind of get an idea of exactly, you know, what the expectation is. You know, I think in some regards we've all seen, you know, we draw a lot of comparisons to, you know, Scum and Villainy in Hollywood. Our friend JC runs that, and that's, you know, it's when you walk in there, it's like the Rolls-Royce engines are right there. You got the IG heads, and then, you know, they're famous for the green milk and the blue milk. Personally, I think the green milk's better at Scum and Villainy. JC, don't get mad at me about that. But they've got the alcoves and they've got the glowing tabletops and all that. But like for them, from a feasibility standpoint, they you know, they're trying to get as many people to come in and really just enjoy the theatrical experience of their incredibly themed bar. And so they're going to do Marvel night or DC night, or they're going to do Power Ranger night, or they're going to, you know, whatever that is. And so you're sitting here going, this is a cantina with a bunch of, you know, with Batman and Superman and Green Lantern sitting at a Star Wars looking thing, because they have to keep the doors open and all that. Is there, what are the growing pains of trying to figure out how to, you know, space dive? The expectation, of course, when people come, they always, then it's more ideas. You get other people who are involved. How do we do more? How do we, you know, and you guys are sitting here going, man, more. Look around you. This is more, you know, like what are the growing pains of running an operation like Space Dive for as long as you have?
Well, my tenure has been pretty short on this. It's only been the last couple of years. I just come on and I guess I hang around, and I'm a little bit more aggressive and outspoken. So they let me
marketing
contribute as much as I'm willing to do.
Sure.
But yeah, I think, at a certain point we're going to run out of physical space. There's also, based on, the law, there's only so many people that we can bring through in a single night. Our goal is like, let's get everybody in there, because the more people we can get to come in, the more upgrades we can do the following year. And so it's really important to get a good amount of people to know about it. And we've run basically underground for the last 9 years, where we haven't done much in the way of outreach. I think our biggest outreach was an MLive article that garnered a lot of attention that people did not know about us before. Sure. And that kind of spread things out. And I'm like, and so part of me like coming on board, I'm like, hey, let me help with outreach, because I'm like, I know people, they like Star Wars, they like to talk about Star Wars. We're kind of in a dry spell of Star Wars right now. We're kind of waiting for, when's Andor coming? Not soon enough. All right. Yeah. Like, not for any of our taste. And with the Galactic Star Cruiser going down, that a lot of like I was just as misty as like anybody else, like of like thinking like what a horrible thing. Like, I only wanted to see that grow, and I'm like, how can they do that same experience but do it on a cheaper? I even made a YouTube video about it at one point, like my thoughts about how to do that. I'm like, anything I can do to help out. And this is definitely a different experience than that. But I mean, as far as like, I think I've lost the question, and what you guys asked.
Oh, just like growing pains. Like, what's the hardest part to maintain? Is it budget? Is it getting people to volunteer and help? Is it just every year there's more expensive? I mean, obviously with stuff that's happening right now politically, which it is going to make things more expensive. Some of our listeners might not want to hear that, but it is going to, especially we get a lot of lumber from Canada and all these things. But like, is it costs of materials to rebuild this thing? How many parts get reused? Do you keep them in storage? Is storage expensive? Like, all of these things that people don't really think too hard about unless you're looking around at it.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said are exactly the thing. Storage is expensive. The cost of a 2x4 in the last 4 years is more than double. All these things end up having an incurred cost that like we really have to look at. I even was talking with some of the guys in construction for this year, and there were some really massive plans, and I'm like, hey, what can we get away with where we're not necessarily building that out of hard parts, but maybe we're doing soft parts, like we're doing something in cloth, and then we can, that's easy to store. We can roll it up rather than we need another shipping container. We need to put that in, like more expense. And you like can
this parachute kind of thing over the sabacc room.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's a geodesic dome that was built like as like a kit that we just had CNC'd out, and we can disassemble that into a very small footprint. But it's a massive dome when it's all assembled, and then we've got a thin parachute over it, which allows for a couple things. First of all, it's blocking the city, so you're not seeing the city like outside of that. But it also allows that like the Detroit lighting that's in the street to like pierce through, so you're getting this weird two-tone of like our amber lights on the inside and this like green street lights on the outside.
It looks so good and so convincing, dude. Like this looks straight out of Solo, one of those 2 sabacc matches. It looks amazing to me.
And it's a ton of fun, and in there, and you're not seeing it, but like there's an IG unit that's in there as the guardian. Like, no one's allowed to bring a blaster inside of the sabacc, because we don't want anybody pulling blasters unless like you're authorized. But there is there's an IG unit to make sure that happens. Like he's always scanning around, so his eyes are in motion. He's got laser trackers that can focus on people. It's freaking sweet. Like, I don't think I need to convince you to. You guys will be like, what? I'm already there. In that capacity. It's sort of like
you and everyone you work with who puts this thing together. I think we all. Our psychological diagnoses are heavily overlapping.
Yeah, we're definitely suffering from the same syndrome. That's for
sure. Yes, Star Wars-itis for sure. Well, Keven, so you have the experience for this is that how do you guys scale this in terms of you guys sell tickets for it, you're selling drinks, but then some of that stuff is like because I always think about it from terms of like sustainability, right? Like you do something awesome, like Rami and I just did this 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 great fundraiser for Starlight Children's Foundation in partnership with the 501st. It went from 10 ornaments to 30 the next year, and then this last year we did actually closer to like 80, 85, right? And after that, I'm like, I'm cooked. Like I gotta get off my computer. I shipped 80 boxes out, like all of this stuff. And I look at it and I go, okay, how do I do it again this year? Right. Like, and I'm thinking just like you guys, how do we, do I tell all the artists to make it fit inside a box so we don't have to have all these like different weird costs of shipping because it's oversized, undersized? From your standpoint, how do people support the project outside of just paying for a ticket and attending? Is there, is the merchandise fundraiser, like, support the project, $50 t-shirt, but that it's going to help build, 2x4s and all that? Like, how do people support this, this project, this endeavor?
So you touched on something that's like really important, and it's something that I've talked about with my fellow artist nerds that help put this on, because I was also like came on, I'm like, how can I help merchandise? I'm a designer, I can make things, I know about lead times, I've worked with vendors, all these things. But you mentioned one thing, and specifically, it's like you mentioned the bar. We don't make any money off that bar because we can't hold a liquor license. So that bar, we actually rent out the bar. They make all the money. We make zero money on any drinks.
Oh, yeah.
So that's actually like detrimental to us in that capacity. But we can't because we don't hold the liquor license. So our money literally comes from the door. Now, there are some experiences like Sabak where you are exchanging your money in your terrestrial money in for chips. Now, that's a one-way trip. So you're kind of buying into the experience of being able to play cards, whether win or lose. So that also helps us. But it also, we're paying for, like our talent who are putting on the games, and like people walking around. We're paying, it's not much, but, we're giving something for your time. Yeah. But there is some merchandise at Space Dive. However, it's underground, much like everything else. So like, I know people who've been coming for 5 years who are like, where did you get that Space Dive t-shirt? And I'm like, well, they sell it there. And they're like, where? And I'm like, oh, you didn't find it. Everything is kind of hidden because we're trying to we don't want anything out there.
Exit through the gift shop, right?
Well, I actually brought that up, and I'm like, why don't we just do exit to the gift shop this year? Because I'm like, we can still hide it on site, but like catch people on their way out the door if they want, and like anything else, you guys being in bands, t-shirts are a big pain in the ass. They take up a lot of room. You have to have the right size for the right people. You're going to run out of this or that. And like, we're always looking at items that are non-size dependent and something that's like a good keepsake. So we're still working on that. But it's like a lot of things is nobody who does this wants to sell merchandise. Like we want to play. Like how do we do this and play at the same time? So there is limited merchandise. I'll say good luck finding it. If you come out, you can find it. We don't sell it online. So it is like kind of exclusive. To that. But we have no going back to like, how do we raise money? It's tickets. It's 100% tickets. We want people to experience it. We have no corporate backing. We have no private backing. This is literally on the shoulders of us. When we chip in our money, where we hope to break even. And I can say like in some years we start in the negative, like going into it, and we're like, oh boy, how are we going to do it this year? And we're dumpster diving. We're picking through trash. We're on Craigslist free, looking for things like that. It's just kind of our nature. That's the way we've always done things. I don't know that things will change unless, someone has a different idea, but that's the way it's been run for 10 years. And I think it's the way it'll run for 10 more years unless something radically changes.
Well, so the photo we have up right now, and you mentioned this earlier, there is sort of a marketplace, kind of like in Galaxy's Edge, and Herspink's ceramics right here. These are in-universe ceramics. They're themed for the different planets and films, but in such a subtle way that it doesn't look like, like you mentioned, not world's best dad with Grogu on it kind of thing.
Exactly.
This is in-universe. So these folks they're making money, or at least enough to cover their trip because they want to be there, and they become part of the experience. Do you take a cut from vendors to help with this, or is it 100% just please come be here and help build this universe for us?
So I know there's a very modest fee
Yeah.
that like Eric pays, and he's even said so much, and I'm like, hey, you got to be quiet, because unless you're willing to part with more of that,
It's gonna
like,
double next year.
don't tell me it's modest.
Yeah.
No, it won't. Yeah.
And then the bar,
Yes.
you said, they run it. It's
Tangent Gallery.
Yes, the Tangent
runs the
Gallery.
bar,
So-
yeah.
Hastings
Okay,
Ballroom.
so the art gallery has the liquor license. It's their bar, but is it their bar physically? Because again, like talking about what you guys built out, I mean,
You've got taps and you've got beers and
yeah, like I assume you roll these kegs in, but this bar looks like one giant 20-foot wide thing minimum, and the whole ceiling piece, like the actual Mos Eisley Cantina, like. How
Yeah.
do you pull this off?
That's I want you guys to come see it to believe it, like,
Yeah.
because so to a certain degree, the bar itself is kind of remotely shaped exactly like what you know, and that's part of the reason why we're there, is and we've
The existing gallery bar, you're saying?
correct, and like
Okay.
that overhead panel that you're referring to, we added that, and it's kind of a permanent installation.
Oh, wow.
Because it is too much there's a couple of things that are permanently there,
Okay.
because we come back, but not much. Everything else in this photo, in the background, we're bringing in. It's flats, but yeah, they have their own beer taps. They've got their own coolers. We're just bringing in, like the Derwent engine, like the head, the IG heads, or however you want to refer to them,
Right.
in the background, and we're theming that out. We're adding all the pipe work and everything to make it very convincing, and I think it is.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh God, it looks amazing. And then so Kevin, you've got this experience. Your people are coming into it. What are kind of some of the things that, is this, do you see repeating customers come back? Is this, are you because we had talked originally when I figured out that you were involved with it. And then, I'm in the 501st Legion. Are you a 501st in Michigan?
So I'm a rebel. I'm a Rebel Legion.
Okay.
But I am working on my first 501st, and I'm hoping to be done later this month if everything goes right.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Coming to the dark side.
There we go. Right. Exactly. Well, at this point, it's just Star Wars at this point, how I feel. But the whole interesting part about it is that, we have very dedicated, and frankly, I'm speaking very highly of my fellow brothers and sisters of the 501st. A lot of great costumers that can come through and really do, this is off duty, of course, because there's alcohol on premise. So
Right.
it's off duty. It's literally, take the 501st out of it. You just have people with costumes. But you certainly have an experience for people. Are you guys in need of volunteers on that level? Are you kind of saying, like, we can't really count on anybody, so we try to fill in the blanks where we can? But if people want to get involved in some regard, are you in need of volunteers? Or you need people to come over and put spackle on walls? Like, how does Space Dive work between volunteers, actual employees getting on the team? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good crew of people that show up over and over. There's a couple of key days where we need the most backs that we can break in a single day.
Sure.
Just hauling stuff. But yes, I mean, some people are the 501st members, Rebel Legion members who come out. There's scanning past a couple shots of people in stormtrooper gear, and they are donating their time just to hang out,
Sure.
at the thing.
Yeah.
I would say, if anything, if we needed people from local 501st who were we need some of you guys to stay past 9 p.m.
Yeah,
a lot of guys are
Sure.
they're kind of rolling up their costume trunks, kind of early, and we're we run till 2.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So-
You got a lot of guys going in the back and be like, all right, well, that's good. Let me go ahead and get one of those blue milks. Let's
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and put on something where I can actually sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's true. I think part of it is we just need to work with some people and see if we can space people out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Hey, are you willing to take a late shift? I mean, the other thing is the general storyline, and it's part of it is headcanon. This is the way I think of it.
Yeah.
Sure. You look at the end of Return of the Jedi, and the second Death Star explodes. This is clearly a sign that the Imperials are splintered, and they're on the waning side of thing, and that the rebels finally have the upper hand.
Right.
And I look at this celebration as almost like a Groundhog's Day of that day, the
Sure.
party that is happening in Coruscant with the fireworks, and like, you know, what it would look like on a desert planet, you know, that you might know, where they're on the backside. So we do have people who get kind of into it, and they're like, they see the stormtroopers coming and they light them up, you know, with their guns
Sure.
and stuff like that. So I think some of those guys are like, we don't want to be a bad guy all the time, you know?
Yeah. And
Like,
so in the Space Dive story, because there is a set timeline, right? It's right after Return of the Jedi.
So I was informed, like, no, you can't really say that. I say
Okay.
that. So that's like
Sure.
my head canon. But we got, you know, since Andor came along, it kind of like really like threw things off, because people are like, Andor, and I'm like, well, they don't really line up, you know, you still got, but like that idea of rebellion over, you know, the Imperial side. So it's any way you really want to play. But in my mind, my head canon, you know, you're going to see things like stormtrooper helmets on pig poles, just like out of The Mandalorian. So to me, it's like it's more or less that vibe of like the rebels on top and the Imperials on the bottom.
Sure. But if the Imperials show up, you still know there's a very good chance they've got backup. You got to watch out for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, even if you went up to the absolute latest part of the of any Star Wars canon, all that stuff is still relevant. You know, there are plenty of people right now, unfortunately not all of us, that still think Nazis suck. Even though that was 80 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So there's no reason it couldn't, you know, be, you know, current, you know, present day in Star Wars. All that stuff still applies. Like in some, you know, backwater planet that, you know, at some point got the Empire out after they lost, they might still have those helmets on those spikes.
Yeah.
So it all works.
Absolutely.
It all plays.
Yeah.
And our space, like, I know you've flashed up a lot of images of the actual bar, but there's other parts of the space that are Imperial themed. And the whole idea is that, you know, much like on Tatooine, when you're in Mos Eisley, you saw sand troopers like walk in the streets. They had to go back somewhere. There's
a HQ somewhere. Yeah.
They
had an outpost.
Exactly. So there is an outpost themed area in there. And the idea is that this is where when the rebels took over that. And so you can go in there as a rebel. We've got, you know, like some things that look very familiar from, you know, like a Death Star light panels. I think you flashed by some of the pictures. So, so the idea is that the Imperials are there, but they're just like kind of they're on the outskirts, and that the rebels like pierce through the wall, and that they're stuck like just off to the side where, you know, they're looming, but they know they're outnumbered, so they're not going to try anything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love all of it so much.
I know. I'm like, get me there. So Keven, so fill us in on when this is, right? So we've got it's in May now. We've talked about this briefly, but you have Motor City Comic Con that's usually hanging around the third weekend of May. Is there any reason? Is it kind of more so looking at the whole month of May of kind of being like, this is a big, you know, the month of the nerds, or is there any talk in the future of kind of seeing when Motor City's going to happen and then doing a space dive so that you could go to the con during the day, come over to space dive at night? Is that in the works at any point, or is it working enough that you go, hey, have that be its own experience, have space dive be its own thing?
I would definitely have to help play matchmaker on a scenario like that, because Space Dive has always been like a May the 4th, like kind of celebration. So our dates always touch on May the 4th. We always run it on May the 4th, no matter what day of the week it happens. So if it happens on a Wednesday, we might do like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or something like that. Where
it's on a Sunday night this year, right?
Exactly. It's on the Sunday. So for this year, 2025, we've got May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we also are picking up the next weekend for the Friday and Saturday, which is the 9th and the 10th.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Have you You've always done multiple weekends or no?
No, we just started that the last 2 years.
Nice.
We originally were only one weekend, and then it just got to the point of like, well, how much does it cost to rent out this, bar and gallery? Because it's like, it's an opportunity, one, to try and make some more money, for us to like get more people in the door.
Yeah.
But also we get to do our own like promotion, like any like videos that like you see like on the website or upcoming, like we need a little bit more control over that space. So we do our video shoots like in between that weekend, and also like our crew appreciation party, because everybody's been busting their ass up until this point just to get this thing done. People use their work vacation time or whatever to make this show happen. It's an awesome experience to be around people who are so dedicated to doing this, and they're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, because what we make on it as individuals is like nobody would do this. You have to be committed, because it's more often that I'm like, oh well, I lost money again this year.
Sure, exactly. You're like, congratulations everyone, we made $200 each.
It's
If
also
we're lucky.
it's got to be incredibly artistically fulfilling though, and if it wasn't, I don't think people would take part in it.
100%. I like after the event's over, I'm like, I hit like a midwinter depression state of like, wow, like what else are you guys doing? Hey, do you want to get together in another week and like, just hang out? Because like, it's like you lose like your family that you see like every single day, and like you so much camaraderie and so much love that happens in that group of people. And that's the great thing. We want people to come out and enjoy that with us, because that's part of it, is seeing you guys. And like we often talk about our experiences afterward. Like one of our members who's on the build team, we were talking about our experiences, and this is like one of the cool things, and like one of the immersive things that happened was someone came up to him, had taken a picture of him the previous year, and then took that picture and made it into a wanted poster, and he's like, is this you? And he's like, he basically presented him with his own wanted poster, and then was trying to like get him to get him to give him something.
I don't like you.
Yeah,
he doesn't like you either.
I can make this wanted poster disappear, or we can take you in cold, kind of thing. And it's like, what a cool experience for us. Just have some random person that we didn't even know took our photo, all of a sudden make a wanted poster for us.
Yeah,
like those are the kind of things. Like I want people to bring things to trade. Like you might trade with like a Jawa or something at a con. Like bring trinkets. It doesn't even matter what it is. Like bring things, and because that becomes part of the experience too. Like it doesn't have to be a full-on like immersive LARP, but just like having like items that I bring back every year that I'm like, I'm gonna let this go and see what I can get. And I don't want like your car keys or like stick of bubble gum or something like that. Like give me a chunk of pipe or something, like let's play.
Well, the one of the coolest parts, and I very specifically remember this in the Star Cruiser. You get into they let you into Batu for the second day, and you're kind of on the scavenger hunt. And we were one of the first groups to get into Outer Cantina, right? So we, and I'm like, hey, listen, well, while I'm here. We end up going to Outer Cantina at like 9:15 in the morning, right? So we do Rise of the Resistance first. We're kind of looking on the data pad. Okay, this. So we go over to Outer Cantina, and we walk in, and they go, we're looking around to be like, are they gonna, we're looking for the part, the Hyananea, the this, and okay, what are we doing? And there's nothing. And I remember walking up to the bartender and going, hey, you know anything about a special part? And they see the pin, obviously, and they looks over at his buddy. He goes, hey, you know something about a special part for whatever, hyperdrive fuel or whatever? And he goes, I don't know anything about that, sorry, man. And I remember in my head being like, oh, that's weird, there's no way they don't know about this. And I have a coin, like I make my own coins, like my own drink coins that I have with this dice game that I made. And I go, well, I pull it out of my pocket and I hand it to him. I hold it in my finger. I'm like, I could sweeten the pot and we can make a deal right now. And the guy goes, oh, okay, now. And the other guy walks over. He's like, yeah, all right, now we're talking. And he gives me the coaster that you can scan, right? And I was like, in that moment, I felt like I was, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm
Like you
riding
were having the
star
most fun of your entire life.
100%,
Yeah.
dude. And like,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I just remember this moment of being like, you know, and then on the second time we're in full costume, right? And I'm sitting at the like Ronto Roasters or something, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm in full gear, right? And these two kids are looking at me with their dad, right? And I'm sitting there waiting for these guys to order and whatever. And I'm sitting there and I see the dad's like, two kids walk up to me. They're like, do you like fly spaceships or like what do you do? And I was like, well, kids, I'm actually here on I'm on a trip. I'm on a ship called the Halcyon. I'm actually just over here for a couple of days, right? And I'm like having a little fun with it. And I know Disney would be very sad to know that I was doing this, but I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, well, we're here eating lunch with our dad. And dad kind of looks over. He's like, are you on the thing? And I'm like, I look over, I give him a wink, and they're like, well, that's awesome. And I go, well, I'll tell you what, guys. I go, when you go see Chewbacca, and I just like reached into my pocket and I grabbed out two like basically things that I knew that I was going to give away. Right. One of them's like a, you know, Millennium Falcon rider card. And I was just making stuff to trade. And I gave him these two things. I go, you show that to Chewbacca and he'll get you on the Millennium Falcon. And these kids were like, what? Are you serious? You know, and like, I didn't have the heart to tell them like, hey, don't actually do that, because they're not going to know what it means. But like, those kids in that moment were in Star Wars. Like that was, as far as I was concerned, I was like out of Star Wars. They believed, just like all of us did when we watched Star Wars for the first time, that like this is happening in a galaxy far, far away. So the fact that you guys are like bringing this experience to life in my own city of Detroit. Yes. Everything about it is awesome. And I guess I'm like, get me to May. We're going to come like the plan right now is second weekend. We're bringing everybody. So, I mean, like, let's how can people, let's put it this way, Kevin, wrap us up here. Where can people find information about Space Dive? Tell people to go buy tickets. I want to see everybody there.
So tickets are going to go on sale in early March. So for those who are paying attention to the social medias, you'll probably see some early bird tickets that pop up early on, but you're going to want to go to, you know, Instagram, where we're at Space Dive 313, as well as Facebook. I think we just started a blue sky account.
Cool.
I think TikTok is currently down, I think, for any downloads. So we'll see.
Sure.
We'll see if anything's up there, but those will go fast. They always do. But where you purchase them is from our website, which is spacedive313. It's the digits.com. And
it sells out. I mean, people also like, let's be real. Like it sells out. If you're looking for certain nights, it sells out. So make sure you get your tickets.
Yeah, we will sell out online, but we do hold back a certain number of tickets, you know, for the night of, so we can accommodate some, but we could get at a point where we have our active head count. So you might be standing in line and it's one in, one out, like kind of thing. We can't overbook it.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, like, you know, if you come in costume, if your costume's good, we do kind of walk the line and like kind of prejudge people. It's like a Studio 54 thing from the 70s. If we like your vibe, we might pull you right to the front, so you don't have to wait in line. It just depends on like kind of what's going on. It's kind of fun. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
100%.
You know? So we want to reward people for putting in the effort and doing the things that we enjoy, what we want to see come in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about all that you would need to know is the website, and pay attention to the social medias, and get ready to purchase your tickets.
Oh, that is awesome. I love everything about that. So we'll see. We got a plan happening right now. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but like right now, the plan is to get to Detroit in May. I'm not able to make it. Like what's hard too is like I work at a university, and for some reason our university is always a week behind everybody else. Graduation weekend is always May 4th. So that's out for me, but I'm coming the second weekend. That's the plan right now. And on that side of things, I mean, I'm just looking at how exciting this is to bring people and also let them know, like, you're actually going to feel more out of water if you're not into it, which I think what I love that, you know what I mean? Like for a guy who's, I know some of my friends would want to come just because they want to do cool things, but like, I'm certainly going to tell them, like, I know right now, a couple of my friends, I'm going to have to bring them costume pieces because I know they don't have anything close to what is going to pass for space time quality. So I'm actually finding a lot of joy in that experience too. So I love everything about this, man.
Yeah, I can't wait to make it to my first mosh too. By the way, I wish I was going to be there this weekend, and I hope you guys break a leg. I'm sure you will. Yeah. I'm envious every time I see like all the photos and videos coming out of there, and I'm like, one of these. I was in New York Comic-Con, but I'm like a year off from when you guys.
Sure. Yeah. We got a couple. We got a couple. The C2E2 with Celebration kind of being at a weird time this year. It's like that for some reason between these guys being on tour, Celebrations in mid-April. We've got C2E2 is literally the weekend before Celebration. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we're really focused on somehow be able to get, Midwest has been asking for it. We are doing our best to be able to get there. But in the meantime, we are happy to share our patrons, our people, to go over to Space Dive and make sure before Mosh gets there, go over to Space Dive, support that, be a part of that, because it looks like an amazing time, you guys. And please do tell your team, incredible work. I mean, this is a Star Wars experience by Star Wars fans through and through. I love everything about it.
Well, thank you on behalf of everybody. I'm sure we really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us and sharing it with your audience, and we're excited for everything you guys do as well, and we're listening. We've been on board for the last 5 years, between Armor Party and Think the Maker. So yeah, we love it. We eat the stuff up the way you guys eat it up.
Yeah, too. Absolutely.
Nice. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. This is, God, I don't know why do dates have to line up the way they do. I'm so bummed I'm not going to be there. I'm so bummed, but so excited. And I'm assuming you're not going to stop doing this, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and better. So I'll be there next year, maybe.
Yeah.
Crossing my fingers.
Well, I know a guy that can probably get you in.
There we go. Yeah, and he's like, let me know how many costumes to bring. I'm good.
Yeah.
You can do as many costume changes as you're willing to do.
That's great. All right, well, we're going to wrap up, but we do a bonus segment for patrons, and every week, typically, we pick from this Star Wars conversation chat pack written by Kelly Knox, Star Wars author, and I have a couple options that I want to throw your way if you want to hang and do that with us for the patrons after.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Sweet. First option in the Galaxy category, if you opened a store in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars Galaxy, what would you sell? Option 1. Option 2, in the characters category, Jyn Erso uses several different names while she's on the move. What would your Star Wars alias be?
Ooh, yeah.
I'm leaning towards that one personally. We're talking about immersive experiences. What do you think? Your pick.
Yeah. Well, I already have an answer for number 2. I wonder if it's just too easy, and it's like maybe I should.
So maybe we go with number 1. We're talking about the market. What would you sell at the Space Dive market? Maybe I like this idea.
Okay, yeah, we'll go with number 1 then, because the other one is like I got a flat out answer, and it's like come on to Space Dive and meet me, and then we'll talk that.
There we go.
That one.
Sweet.
but if I had to have a shop, and this is something that I'm like, I don't know why I'm obsessed with this idea of like.
Well, don't do it yet.
Oh,
we'll sign off. It's bonus segment just for patrons, so we'll sign off.
Kevin's our kind of guy. He's like, I want to talk about this right now.
So. Everybody, thanks for watching and listening. Patrons, we'll catch you in the after show segment. Mike, you want to shout out Mosh Eisley stuff?
Yeah, Mosh Eisley is on Friday in Orlando at MegaCon. So if you are going to be there, we have tickets left. We've got our buddy Dion from Anne Berlin is DJing. We've got our buddy Ryan Key, who's actually, I don't want to share too much personal information, but he's headed to Orlando. He's very excited about it. He's in the neighborhood. put it that way. But he's very excited about coming and hanging out with everybody. So mosheisley.com for tickets. Roosevelt's is coming early. They're going to hang. They're going to party. It's going to be a great time. So mosheisley.com. Make sure to grab your tickets and come hang with us. Empire themed, but you know that we love to rebel. So dress up, have fun, scream your lungs out.
Nice. All right, Keven, hang on for us, and we'll get back after this outro. Everyone, again, thanks for listening and watching. One more time, the website and social media, just for anyone who has bad memory.
Spacedive313.com and at Spacedive313 on Instagram.
Awesome. Oh, lastly, S13 Danny, shout out to you for the super chat. I blew it. Should have said that at the top. Bad streamer. Me.
Come on, man.
But
So
nonetheless, we love you. And until next week, may the force be with you. If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, our recording live stream, and more. Our patrons quite literally make Thank the Maker possible.